So another example more recently of herbal fake news, and this was actually featured in an ABC Four Corners program a couple of years ago, was this DNA testing of herbs. So yes, DNA testing is a useful technique for identifying a species, be it an animal or a plant. Now, for animals, they use DNA barcoding techniques, and they're quite accurate. But for plants, it's in fact much more complex. And generally, the general application of a single or even a couple of DNA barcoding techniques to plants is difficult to get accurate. You need something that's almost been developed as a specific methodology for the plant, using DNA, the plant DNA, to identify that species. So that's the first point. The second point is, of course, when we take a plant, we dry it, we extract it, to make a herbal product. Now, in that process, the DNA is either damaged beyond repair or lost. So you don't expect to find DNA in a lot of herbal products, herbal DNA. And yet what happened was there was a group at a university in Canada who had a plant DNA barcoding technique, and they basically looked at a range of herbal products on the US market. And guess what they found? They found that, for example, there was no ginkgo in so many products. But of course there's ginkgo in there. There was just no ginkgo DNA because the manufacturing process gets rid of the DNA. And they also said, oh, and in one product we found snow leopard DNA. Well, what happens is, don't forget these DNA techniques, the crime labs use them. You touch something on a crime scene and they can pick up that DNA and amplify it millions and billions of times and point that you were there. That's how sensitive this technique is. So there's some herb growing out in the wilds of Siberia and a snow leopard comes along and pees on it. It doesn't mean anything if you pick up a bit of snow leopard DNA, because it's such a tiny, tiny amount. But they made a big deal of that as if, herbs were somehow threatening endangered species and so on. And it was completely beat up. But at that time, and this person has now resigned due to a sex scandal, but the Attorney General of New York at that time took that and ran with it and started prosecuting herbal companies in the US because of false and misleading information, because their ginkgo didn't really contain ginkgo. Well, it did contain ginkgo, the extract, not necessarily DNA, because the DNA didn't survive the process. And all the poor herbal companies in the US had to settle with the Attorney General, say, yes, we'll use DNA barcoding for identification. Please don't prosecute us, and it went on and on. So it was completely discredited. Can you get this? Even the United States FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, did a study to discount those findings as meaningless. We, with my R&D team, also did some studies which did the same thing, discounted it as meaningless. But here's the really frustrating thing. That study from the University in Canada and the subsequent action of the Attorney General had been totally discredited by anyone who would do objective research, and yet ABC Four Corners a couple of years ago ran it. It was a PBS article on it, and they ran it. Despite the industry saying, hey, this has been discredited, it's nonsense, they still ran it. And I was deeply, deeply grumpy and disappointed about that. And you know what really got to me was at the end, the ABC moderator who was talking about, oh, aren't these shocking findings? And you have to be really careful with these herbal substances because there's a gang of cowboys out there who really don't know what they're doing. After they said that, they said, and we want to be hearing from you if you've been harmed by using herbs. And I'm thinking, hang on, ABC Charter, balanced reporting. What happened there? The reporter didn't say, and we'd also like to hear from you if you've been helped by herbs. No, no, no. So I was grumpy for probably at least a few days after that, but I got over it.